Hello and welcome to Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
All right, guys. Hello. Hola. Bienvenido to another Note to File. Today is, what is today? May 28th?
May 28th.
Very cool. And it's been just a little over 5 years since I released the first Note to File episode. Just a young man of 37.
So what were you thinking?
I don't know. I don't know. I had no idea where this was going to go. Actually, what I was thinking was that the only person making like clinical trial content was Dan Svera, and obviously a true trailblazer. I'll give him his flowers. But no one else was really doing it with especially with any like personality, right? Like,
Yeah,
he was the only person sort of talking casually. And actually, I think the first things I did were like very badly scripted like videos. I did a couple of those, and then I started like just wanting to talk to people. So, and here we are.
well, happy birthday, Note to File.
That's right. And here's to another 5. Hopefully not, right? I mean,
Hopefully we'll be doing something else by that point.
exhausting, right? Exactly. Well, very cool. And today is also National Flip-Flop Day.
Huh.
I don't have any witty question or remark about that.
How many pairs of flip-flops do you own?
Oh, 0. I hate them, and I refuse to wear them.
Okay. I used to live in flip-flops, like the cheap Old Navy ones for like years.
No, get out of here with flip-flops.
Not
Just
a big
wear
fan,
shoes,
like
or don't wear a shoe. Don't wear half of a shoe.
half of a shoe. I feel like it's not even half of a shoe. It's kind of like a strip, just like connected to the bottom of your foot.
Yeah, that's what you fashion if you can't find shoes. That's why you don't need to wear them. They're unnecessary. But anyways, my bigger point is that I do this occasionally on these episodes, is find out there's international or national days for just about everything, right?
Why is Flip-Flop Day May 28th? I feel like that's off.
It said
That
the
makes
Wednesday
no
after Memorial Day is always
Okay.
is always National Flip-Flop Day. Maybe it's because like
We
like
can wear white
pools-
again? I don't
like-
know.
pools open.
Yeah, it's like the
and-
Memorial Day to Labor Day, like summer season or whatever.
Yeah. So see, there's a reason for it. But
Okay.
what other days? What are the reasons for the other days? And I think recently we had a day
We
to
did.
our industry. That was National Clinical Trials Day
Well, it's-
2025.
Right. Well, May 20th is the annual one. I think, what has it been going on for, I don't know, 10 years now? Which also like begs the question of like, I guess my question with any of these Flip-Flop Day, Clinical Trial Day is like, what's the point? And
Okay, well, luckily it says right here what it is.
Okay.
It's a bunch of words, but mostly, to celebrate and, otherwise bring attention to the importance of clinical trials. And it's also a day for your LinkedIn feed to be absolutely jammed full of patting yourself on the back. Which again, I get it. Like, I didn't realize it was actually like invented by ACRP or
right. I had no idea.
organized and promoted. I don't know. It's one of those things like, I'm not going to do that. I obviously appreciate what we do. I do it every day, but
And that's the question I have, because like I get like LinkedIn feed just like absolutely jammed with folks holding signs that look exactly like that, saying like what their purpose is in clinical trials, which is great. I mean, I think we are a purpose-driven industry. Like everyone who's doing this, probably, I mean, majority of folks who are doing this do it for a reason. But what I couldn't figure out is what else folks are doing besides saying how great everyone is and what they're doing. Like I'm curious as far as like when we do days like this or other days, and like you see this with like disease indications too, where it's like raising awareness for stuff. But I'm just, again, not clear as far as besides people posting about themselves, what's actually being done in the space.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not for anything other than that. Just, or maybe it's just some sneaky promotion for ACRP. Either way, it's cool, I guess. it seems like I was overwhelmed by
Yeah,
the
I was
trillions.
like, what even is this? Like, besides people saying like I do this because my grandma had cancer or like I want to make a difference. Like, great, but like what are we doing? What are we doing to make like? I feel like these things could be used as a platform for like larger conversations or larger change, and I just haven't seen that for. I mean, across the board, not just for clinical trials day, but like disease indication days and all of those things as well. Like, I mean, maybe it's just advocacy and awareness.
Yeah, I think essentially that's it. I mean, we can start around competing clinical trials day and do something different.
I'm in.
Take that, ACRP. Very cool. Well, until next year, I was non-observing this year. I don't practice. I don't practice anymore.
I'm not practicing anymore.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, that's that.
What do we got today? What do we want to talk about today?
Oh, I don't even know. So we've been sort of trying to grow a YouTube channel, right?
Ish. Well, I mean, we've been posting more consistently and getting stuff out there. Well, okay, so yeah, we want to talk about I think it's interesting because you sort of figure out like who's been watching and when they're watching and what they're engaging in. And I think when I was sort of looking through some of this, I saw we had a huge uptick in the past, I don't know, almost like month, maybe a couple weeks, where a huge viewership from Mexico. And that was fascinating to me. And so, and like, yeah, I did a little bit of digging here and to figure out like where is this uptick here? Because I'm uneducated. I don't, know some of this, but like why I've not heard of Mexico as being a hotbed for clinical trials. Started digging into it, and it looks like earlier this year, they've made like a national initiative to massively increase their clinical trials presence across the board here. Sure.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. And again, this is technically, old news, I guess, from earlier in the year. But what is their Secretary of Health saying that in the pharmaceutical and medical device industry, their goal is to attract $2 billion in annual investment in clinical research, which, I mean, that's pretty ambitious, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, the timing of this is all very interesting as well. Because I imagine if we, there's the announcement made in this winter, right? You start to bolster how we're going to grow clinical trials in a region, which makes sense that, I don't know, was it 4 months later? We've seen like an uptick of folks trying to then get more involved in clinical research, which would be a reason for why why folks are interested in logging in and watching Note to File, because they're starting to build that knowledge base at within the region. But I also think too, timing wise, we saw this with the EU, right, where they have started advertising and recruiting researchers from the US as well. So I wonder what other countries and geographies are going to start moving into this space here, because research in the US, in the US has really taken some hits through all of the changes that are happening. So are other countries like Mexico or like the EU, like are other countries going to jump into this to bolster their programs when the US has been depleting theirs?
Right. Yeah. You would think so. That would make sense to me. I'm also like really interested if anyone listening is either involved in or knows someone involved like in the clinical trial space in Mexico. I think that'd be a really interesting conversation. And I'm, not unlike you, I'm fairly ignorant about like what that
international trials looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear about it, but I have very little knowledge. So I'm kind of curious to know more about, what's going on down there.
So the other thing that I thought was interesting as well was, I think I saw this a month or two ago, but a lot of CROs are like offshoring their CRAs to places like Mexico City because the living wages are significantly less, and so they can get a much cheaper workforce from having folks in Mexico. I also thought I heard folks who were just relocating to like Mexico City because it was less expensive and they were working remote jobs. And so that flux of folks moving because the cost of living was less expensive in the space and they were traveling enough anyway. So like maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. It's curious to me as far as how that all has played out and will play out.
Yeah, we'll see. And again, so yeah, if you're working in the space or know someone who is, send them our way. I'd be curious to kind of learn more about that.
Yeah. Well, I think, you've even seen pharmaceutical companies come in and say like J&J and Lilly have both said like they're making large investments in clinical trials in Mexico, specifically following this type of announcement. So it's getting attention. It's getting some of the funds already, identified. So it'll be interesting to see what that growth actually looks like in the next 5 years.
It will. And speaking of growth, That's good. Hit the next one. Look
Okay.
at this. This is a beautiful segue.
Beautiful. I don't know what we're segueing to, but
I
sure.
should do this professionally. Well, and this was something that I saw on my LinkedIn feed today, which I thought was interesting, was Javara securing some Series C funding. Not a lot of information about it. Actually, I looked around and I couldn't really find. It looks like the amounts and the actual investors were undisclosed, but I know we saw at least a couple of rounds of layoffs from Javara over the last maybe year, 6 months to a year. Which I guess, to your point, that's maybe something you would expect if you're trying to raise money.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're looking to raise, I mean, regardless of the industry, right? Like, what's the point of raising for VCPE? Like, you're going to make yourself look as advantageous as possible, which is going to be, you want good EBITDA and you want good margins. And so how do you do that is either you make more money or you spend less money. And so if you're looking to go for funding, you're trying to make your portfolio and your books look good. There are two ways to do it. And if
I'm personally in it for the EBITDA myself. I'm in it to save EBITDA as much as possible.
Yeah, is that your purpose, power for purpose?
That's what I'm going to put on my sign that I hold up for Clinical Trials Day next year.
Perfect.
The reason I'm in clinical trials is for the EBITDA.
For the EBITDA, which again, I mean, I feel like we've touched on this on a couple of different, episodes now, but like kind of coming back to the role of VC and PE in clinical trials, or I don't know, even in healthcare, right? Like, how does that all play in? Because increasing growth and decreasing cost kind of has a slightly different implication when you're delivering patient care. And I know, like, clinical trials is a care option. That's another debate we can have. But if we're talking about delivering,
don't get me started.
We won't go there. But you're like delivering services to a patient in a medical setting, right? Like, is that a fair way to say it? Are you okay with that?
Fair enough.
And so, like, having that, I think there's disconnect. I think, I'd love to have someone on from VCPE to talk about that, because I have my opinions, but I would also like to get the other perspective as well. Because I think, again, fundamentally, not necessarily bad, but I think in theory, I think sometimes in practice it has issues.
Yeah, honestly, I just saw, and I don't have it pulled up or handy, but there was just a post this morning from someone talking about sites specifically being, acquired through PE, and then within months they're basically stripped of all the things that made them good sites, which I think is very interesting. And unless I'm mistaken, I believe the person posting at least maybe had sold a site previously or been involved with a group that had. So I don't know. Again, I hate to always sound like such a cynic or such a hater all the time.
Is Matthew Holt rubbing off on you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't need help being curmudgeonly. It comes very naturally to me. But and it was about like, what, instead of creating an environment where like you have to raise money to freaking accomplish your goal, like better supporting sites so that that's not the case. Because I can't imagine this taking more money doesn't put you in a better position always to do the right thing, right?
Well, 100%. And I always use this example when I was like doing some more commercial stuff, and you're looking at like, how do you meet your targets and meet your goals, right? It's like, throw more people at it, throw more money at it, do the thing. But what I would always come back to is, one woman can have a baby in 9 months. 9 women cannot have a baby in 1 month. It does not matter how much more you throw at it. It's not going to make it happen. And I feel like sometimes that concept is missed.
Yeah. That's, I mean, you're really on your metaphor game.
Apparently, I'm feeling it today.
You got these things lined up and ready to go. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't really have strong comment. I just found it interesting, where, again, just seeing what Javara has done over the last year or so, and they're raising some money, so good for them. Hopefully,
hopefully they can do some cool stuff with it, right? Like, that's the hope with all of this, right?
They want to grow into oncology, so I'm sure they know what they're in for there. Man.
So, I mean, you do both, right? Like, you do oncology, non-oncology. I mean, I guess I'm not supposed to say that. You do multiple therapeutic areas. Non-oncology folks don't like being called non-oncology folks, which is totally fair.
There's oncology and there's just
other. I mean, that's how the federal grants are, NCI and, CTSIs, right? CTSAs.
Fair.
So, I mean, like, federally, we've done that from handing those awards down in that way. But I will totally agree that is not accurate. Multiple therapeutic areas. oncology. How do you feel about running oncology as a site?
I mean, it's hard as an independent site.
Why?
Just
Like,
because
why?
there's so many. I mean, there's a crap load of trials, and they're targeting essentially populations where we have access to maybe 2 potential patients, and the sponsors want to give you those trials even if you only have 2 patients. And the way that we work is like we're partnered with these physician groups, hospital systems, whatever the case is. So it's always, we don't always make a decision based purely off of financials, because if we did, we wouldn't necessarily do that. So we're not going to probably not going to enroll anyone, and we're going to have to do a bunch of work to show all the work we've done to not enroll those patients.
Good.
Yeah, and that's just how it goes. We don't get paid for that, so it's challenging. Now, when you do get patients in, it's extremely rewarding and obviously fascinating. But I kind of get why it's been relegated to like the big cancer centers, which I don't know. It's ironic because they also kind of like screw themselves up because they have 200 trials, which seems like unmanageable in its own right. But
we have thousands of trials at some of the larger ones.
Some of them, yeah.
But I guess, true. I mean, if you're looking at if you're only getting 1 to 2 patients because the I&E criteria is so narrow and so specific, that's where you're going to get options for your patients that you're seeing, right?
Yeah, no, it is a game of, it's needles in haystacks.
So here is my question then, because I've seen this. If Javara is looking to get into oncology, I think I've seen a couple other networks kind of say like, oh, we're getting into oncology and making announcements about it. I've seen other independent sites or networks sort of having those talk tracks on how they hope to get into oncology, or they're looking to get into oncology, or they just got into oncology. Why then? Why are these groups doing it?
I don't know. And again, maybe there's something more to it than I'm aware of. I will say that like we've seen a big rash of like biorepository type trials that are essentially like good revenue streams, and they enroll a bunch of patients. So if you're in the oncology or like oncology adjacent space, you can get access to those. Of course, they're their own pain in the ass in many ways, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, like maybe I'm not going to admit to being the oncology genius. There's probably better ways to do it than the way we do it. So maybe they know something that I don't. I mean, they're raising money, so look at them. They must be brilliant.
Yeah, that's the bar.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how it works. All right, we got 10 minutes or so left here. Let's let me make sure I please like the Steve Wimmers of the world and get into the gossip part of Note to File. I'll say it again. I say it just about every time. I love Reddit. A lot of anonymity, and people will say more stuff. Now, please keep in mind, you take that with a grain of salt, but something jumped out to me about someone posting about Signant Health and the fact that they've fired a bunch of people. Apparently, they also owe some people back pay for special projects. Again, can't comment on any of that, but they linked to a job posting that Signant recently posted, which is Director of Reputation and Crisis Communications, which I find fascinating. Is that a role you are familiar with or have ever heard of before?
I feel like that's like a FEMA role. Like I could see FEMA posting this.
Right.
I feel like I've not seen this. Normally I would see this like PR communications, like you're going to sugarcoat it a little bit as far as like, I don't know. I feel like I mean, maybe there's a good reason. I feel like that role is probably good to have, or people who focus on that, but that is,
I feel like it's a little more like unofficial though, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, it says here the Director of Reputation and Crisis Communications at Signant Health, you'll play a pivotal role in safeguarding and enhancing our brand reputation through developing powerful narratives for use in strategic relationship interactions, as well as crisis management and issue mitigation.
I mean, maybe there's a reason for this, but this feels like a big miss to me. Like this does not feel, if I was looking to work at an organization, go to an organization, I would probably have concerns if they had a role like this, period, versus even a role like that they're posting about. Like, I mean, that to me reads like there's something wrong going on. Like I would want to know a lot more. So I think
Yeah.
this is a bit of a miss if I'm being honest.
I just think it's, again, like, this verbiage is like really fascinating to me. The one of the key responsibilities, strategic narrative development, which sounds a lot like a long way to say lying to me. Strategic narrative development is, I
I
mean,
wonder
honestly,
what
it's brilliant. Whoever wrote that should possibly be in charge of crisis communications,
I mean,
because that's a
here's the
really fun way to say, we want you to make shit up
here's the deal. You go to
so people like
ChatGPT
us.
and you say, how do you say lying in a job description? And I wonder what you get.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I saw
Oof.
after I posted this, on Lead Up, a bunch of people from Signant Health followed me. So sorry, guys, I'm not trying to like shit on Signant Health per se. I just found it interesting. And if you're bored, go to the Reddit thread and read what some people have to say about Signant. I'll always say that terms like dumpster fire are highlighted all throughout, and maybe not the greatest reputation.
Oof. I mean, again, full transparency, these could be absolutely, maybe people who are upset, who had bad experiences, who maybe they were trashy people who were bad at their jobs, right? But maybe not. So
So, comment from Hannah, sounds like a poor rebrand of a PR role. Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, and like
But also, like,
real bad rebrand. I mean, like you want to go the opposite, right? Like, isn't the role of PR to make you look good?
It's to not to
right?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Instead, it's like, please make us not look bad, and draft strategic narratives.
I mean, at least that maybe they're self-aware and they're aware that they have challenges that they need to address.
Maybe, and I don't know. I don't know if they even have a bad rap out there per se. I don't love them as like a eCOA or ePro vendor necessarily, but I can say that about a lot of companies out there.
Right. Well, I think that's interesting. It actually brings up a point that I was talking to someone about the other day, where it was like, as you pick vendors that you're going to work with, it's a combination of what their offering is, right? So like, what do they have? What solution do they have? But also like who the company is, because like especially in tech, and especially in tech that's like developing on the forefront of things, like I'll throw out AI, right? Like things that are continuing to develop and not fully baked necessarily. The tech is a piece of it, but you're going to have to work with these fuckers. So you're going to have to make sure that you like them, that they're good to work with, they're good listeners, and it's a good culture fit. And like, that's not culture fit is totally dependent on the two organizations involved. Like one size does not fit all, but you got to know that the vendor that you're working with is a good fit for you from a vendor perspective, especially in some of these more like developing and innovative fields. I think is huge, because I think like Microsoft Word, I don't give a shit that Microsoft, who they are as a company. I'm buying it and I'm downloading it on my computer. Right. But if it's something where this is going to continue to grow and develop and iterate, I want to like that company, and I want to like who I'm working with.
It's a fair point. And to Claire's point, then maybe it'll track the right word. You're gonna know exactly what you're signing up for better or worse. All right. Okay. Well, that's really about it today. I didn't bring it up at the top of the show, but we will have Dr. Califf back. Was it June 17th?
June 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central.
Yeah, and he had something come up. We got him rebooked. Again, maybe the check will clear this time and he'll come on. Anyways, all right. Well, anything else as we wrap up here? Short one.
Yeah. Knocked it out. We were very efficient.
Don't say that. Cool. Well, we'll be back. Actually, I won't be here next week. We won't be on next week, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think we're gonna pull something out from the archives, get some old shit where you had more hair.
Yeah, I know. It's painful to watch previous episodes. Where I'm like, man, I had almost a full head of hair back then. It's weird. A lot can change in 5 years. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll sort of see you next week, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.